Whoa, we have a Kyle Kulinski video to break down, and just more fucking shambles for the left media ecosystem right now. So he's Kyle Kulinski has had some cringe takes lately. I mean, I made a tweet about it the other day, and go follow me on Twitter at unapologetic YT. Y'all find me there when I'm not posting videos here. I made a tweet about it because it's like at this point he's entered his Bill Maher incredibly out of touch and unrepentant character arc. He just does not. He's so wildly off the mark and out of touch with what's actually happening, and just like completely stuck in his ways and unwilling to entertain anything else. It's just so all his content right now is just fucking unbearable to watch. It's basically useless, and it's a bunch of fucking Fox News reaction videos and basic. Now he's simping for Biden when it comes to just any random fucking topic you could think of. Afghanistan, even though he was fucking massacring civilians, even though he was responsible for the war for 20 fucking years, simping for Joe Biden as if we need to fucking throw him a fucking parade because he wanted to do slightly less genocide in Afghanistan. And now, I mean, there's so many other things. His cringe takes on defund the police and his bullshit. Don't call my favorite politician sellouts shtick fucking routine that he's stuck on. So yeah, that's where Kyle's direction of the show has gone. And something that I disagree with him a lot on is the way he's been talking about COVID, or the way he's been talking about the vaccine mandates and things like that. So I have a video that I cut and put together where he was talking about the vaccine mandates. First of all, he does this his thing where he just makes up a new like phrasing and new definition, and he wants to say it's not a mandate, it's a soft mandate. Just like his Washington brain, or his rebranding and his completely invented definition of what corruption is. Now he's doing the same thing with mandates. But he said he was talking about the vaccine mandates. And one of my issues with the way he's been covering COVID is he's putting a lot of. I look really fucking dark. That lighting is real shit right now. He's been putting he's been punching down a lot when it comes to this virus, and to the point where it's like I said, it's just fucking cringe, it's unbearable, and the content is just fucking it's just useless at this point. There was one time when Kyle was giving takes that you wouldn't find anywhere else, and they were more relevant than you would find anywhere else, but those days are gone. Bunch of fucking punching down. And so I'll show you the video, and then before I show the video, let me just correct one thing that he's going to keep repeating. He's going to keep saying, "Oh, it's not a mandate." Thank you, Curtis Frazier Jr. for subscribing. He keeps saying, "Oh, it's not a mandate because something, something, something." It is definitely a mandate for. It's a mandate. Let's say that, and explicitly a mandate with no other options, no workaround. It's either you get the vaccine or you get fired if you're a federal employee or you're a federal contractor. That's millions of people. So that's a mandate for millions of people. And he keeps leaving that out and keeps acting like that's not a thing. But anyway, I'll show you the clip, and I'll come back and break it down, and let me know what you guys think about it in the chat, and I'll get to your chat when I'm done.
But, my whole thing was I like the idea of soft mandates. And you know what I would describe this Biden move as? A soft mandate. Because he's giving people the wiggle room of you could show a negative test once a week. If this was Joe Biden saying, I'm mandating everybody in America gets the vaccine, end of conversation, I'd say, no, that goes too far. That's government overreach. If the government can compel you to put this in your arm and give you no wiggle room, well, why should we trust the same government that lied us into the Iraq War, did the Tuskegee experiments, did Operation Northwoods, did the Bay of Pigs, did internment of Japanese Americans, did Native American genocide? Like, the list goes on and on. Yes, there's reason to be skeptical. There's reason to not trust the government. You have to evaluate each thing they do on their own merits. This happens to be an area where they're correct that the vaccine would help you. It's safe and effective. But because they have no credibility, and they shouldn't have any credibility, if anybody who's being honest about that can admit that, there should be wiggle room to get out of taking the vaccine. Now, again, this is an issue where they happen to be correct, but I like that they're giving people the out of you can test once a week instead. He used a scolding tone. He didn't use a scolding tone. He was being honest with people. He was telling them the truth. And when he said, just so everybody understands, vaccinated Americans are sort of fed up now with the unvaccinated Americans because this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. You have over 95% protection from hospitalization and death if you get the vaccine. So the hospitals absolutely are full of unvaccinated patients with COVID. Absolutely. There have been people who have died waiting for a bed for other procedures. Now, how are people going to react when 70% of the country's had at least one shot? How are they going to react when they look at that story? What are they going to do? What are they going to say? Everybody's thinking it. Everybody's looking at it going, that person should have got vaccinated and that bed should have been available for the person who was in the hospital for the other reason. That's what they're thinking. And you know what? They're correct. And I don't care how much, oh, my feelings! Oh, my feels! You hurt me personally and emotionally and psychologically by telling me accurate things. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care. I don't care. There's all the evidence in the world is out there that explains in detail why this is the right way to go. We've covered the studies on this show. Go back and look at the secular talk segments on the vaccine. You know, I couldn't have been more clear. I showed you the graphs and the charts every step of the way.
What I really wanted you all to see there is this wild contradiction that so many people on the left have when it comes to the vaccine. So in the first, it was from two different videos in the same show that he made that I put together. In the first video, he acknowledges why some people don't trust the government, because the government has proven time and time again that they should not be trusted. They've burned public trust. There's a crisis of credibility in all of the major institutions. That is not on us. That is on them. Kyle understands that everybody on the left who is critical of power, critical of institutions, they understand how corrupt our institutions have been forever. And he lists all the different ways that the government's burned public trust, and even specifically when it comes to the issue of health. But then in the very next video that he posts on his channel, which I cut and I played right back after that, he's going around blaming fucking unvaccinated people and doing the whole pandemic of the unvaccinated and all that bullshit. And he's saying, oh, why don't you trust the vaccine? I showed you all the graphs and all the studies. Everybody says it's great, it's safe, it works, and all that stuff. But again, you're contradicting yourself because you just laid out all the reasons, not all the reasons, nowhere near all the reasons, but a good amount of reasons why people don't trust the government. So even if the vaccines work, and there's a debate about that in the medical community about how effective they are, they definitely reduce the risk of severe illness, but these vaccines are not perfect. And they were not completely tested. So let's be real about that. But even if that you have all these studies that you claim support you, people do not trust the government. So you can have all the data, all the studies, people do not trust them because they burned their credibility. These public health institutions burn their credibility. Fuck everything else that he mentioned in the first half of the video. On COVID alone, they have lied relentlessly this entire pandemic. On the pandemic. Dr. Fauci lied about where it came from. He lied about masks working. Literally said masks don't fucking work. The CDC was manipulating data. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was a time when they were just reporting numbers directly to the public. And then Trump, the White House, gave them an order that they're not allowed to publicly release data anymore unless it goes directly through the White House. So the White House was literally manipulating. Thanks North American Aid for the $1 donation. I'll read that in a second. The White House was literally manipulating data for political purposes. Data on a fucking pandemic, on cases, on deaths, and all that stuff for political purposes. You have instances where states where it was just malpractice in the states. New York being the prime example. Cuomo lied about him. He directed the public health department in New York to lie about COVID deaths. At least 12,000 deaths that we know about. It's confirmed that he fucking lied about. So while there were bodies in trucks, while they were digging mass graves to dump bodies in New York, the governor and the public health department was fucking lying to people and manipulating data. So they've lied every step of the fucking way through this pandemic. And so when the vaccine comes out, how on earth do you blame people for not believing them? How do you blame people for not believing the studies that you apparently are taking as gospel now? How are you blaming people for not trusting the data? They've showed that they're going to fucking lie about it at every fucking turn. So, and like I said before, it's just a whole bunch of punching down. Because, and here's the way I would, the earlier Kyle Kulinski that drew me to political commentary would not be punching down. He would not be punching down, regardless of the situation, regardless of the hospitals being full in some areas of the country. And yes, the hospitals are full in some areas in the country. There are some hospitals where it's not true, where that's not the case, but there are some areas where it is true. Speaking anecdotally, my mother works in a nursing home, and at the height of the pandemic, I haven't asked her about it recently. But actually, she spoke about it recently to me. But during the height of the pandemic, they were. I used to talk to her about it all the time, and she would tell me that there are hospitals in the area that they're supposed to send the patients from the nursing home when they get sick. And at some point, they were literally telling them, "We do not have room for you to send any patients if they're sick." So it is true that hospitals are being full, but what I don't understand is I understand why they're doing now, because they want to shift blame. The institutions of power want to shift blame onto the public, and they want us to fight amongst ourselves and blame each other for the pandemic. But the Kyle Kulinski I knew, that, like I said, that drew me to political commentary, he wouldn't be punching down if the hospitals are full. He wouldn't be blaming regular people, poor people, sick people, for the hospitals being fucking full. You know who's to blame for the hospitals being full? Politicians. You know who's to blame for all these unnecessary deaths happening right now? It's fucking politicians. Because for all of the pressure to vaccinate everybody, because that's what's going to save lives, right? You know what would save way more lives? Arguably multiple, actually not even arguably, it would save multiple times more lives if we had single payer. So many people in this country are dying because they can't afford basic healthcare. They're getting COVID and they don't want medical treatment because they know they're going to get bankrupt. If we had single payer, we would avoid so many deaths. Hundreds of thousands of people would not have died. And also on actually, I'll get to that in a little bit. So you want to blame people for hospitals being full. Where's the blame at the politicians who've allowed hospitals to close across the country? Over the last 10 years, last 20 years, there've been over 100 hospital closures across the country in rural areas. So you think that hospitals would be full if we had hundreds more hospitals in this country? Do you think if they stopped building so many fucking prisons for this police state and instead built hospitals, do you think hospitals will be full and fucking overrun? No. So the blame for hospitals being full, like I said, that lies with the fucking politicians. New York, again, back to New York. Cuomo cut $2.5 billion from Medicaid in the middle of the fucking pandemic. In the middle of the pandemic, he cut $2.5 billion that's supposed to go to hospitals, that's supposed to go to the health infrastructure in New York. So if you want to blame people for hospitals being overrun, for there being short staff, blame the fucking politicians. Stop blaming people for that shit. Because now they're demonizing unvaccinated people and acting like the pandemic's all our fault now. It's your fault if you didn't get the vaccine. And it makes no sense because this pandemic of the unvaccinated. First of all, we have the vaccines here, more vaccines than anywhere else around the world. But we're still leading the world in cases and deaths. So there's clearly something wrong here with the way that the government is handling the pandemic. Because even before there was any vaccines, we were hit way worse than any other country in the world. So that has nothing to do with unvaccinated people. Because France never had this amount of deaths. They never had these amount of cases as we had here. So it's clearly mismanagement on behalf of the government. They in those countries, and I saw the chat right there, Brandon Calentano says, pay people to stay home for fuck's sake. In those countries, they've paid people to stay home. They pay people thousands of dollars a month since last March to stay home. That's why it's not raging out of control where they are. So like I said, it's mismanagement on behalf of the government is why the pandemic is raging out of control here. But that is completely missing from Kyle's analysis from now that I see. It's blame the unvaccinated people. And I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of this shit. Stop punching down. How about you punch up to the people in power who have actually the ability to do something, but they won't do anything. And people are acting like, oh, the vaccine is the only way to do anything to stop all these deaths. No, it isn't. There are many things that the government could be doing right now, but they don't want to do it because they disrupt corporate profit. So if you want to blame anybody, I'll repeat it again, blame the fucking politicians, blame the institutions who burn public trust, and stop blaming regular people for that bullshit. So that's my take on that video.